Welcome to the NFL Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast. And we are looking at week 13. We've got Thursday, Thanksgiving Day games here and night games. Now that we have those coming all day, 9:30 a.m. first kickoff here on the West Coast. But we'll be taking a look at player props from all three of these games that we've got for you guys. Definitely want to subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along. We're bringing you the Thursday props. Should have those props for the rest of the week as well as we get into Sunday and Monday. Also got plenty of NBA action for Wednesday if you want to check that stuff out. We'll be bringing you that all season long. So make sure to subscribe. Don't miss any of the props that we're bringing you and those best bets as well. Nate, let's go ahead and jump right into your first play of the day here.
Yeah, we got 3 games for Thanksgiving, and I'm bringing you one for Black Friday as well, just to be clear there. The Raiders and Chiefs got one in there. I just want to throw out a disclaimer. I hope people did not tail the CMC pick as the leading prop last week when they found out Brock Purdy was a surprise scratch. And then the 49ers just imploded. Trent Williams was also a surprise scratch there. So, but I'll take the L there, along with Quentin Johnson, who couldn't hang on to a ball thrown his way. Moving on to Thanksgiving, though, we got DJ Moore over 4.5 receptions. If that's still available, I think it's kind of been bumped up to 5.5 most places because people are wise to the change in scheme here for the Bears. New OC Thomas Moore, 2 games, 7 targets, 7 catches for DJ Moore in both of them. And they're just a total of 33 air yards in those. So these are high percentage throws. They're basically quick screens right near the line of scrimmage, quick whip under, out routes, like quick things to get the ball out of Caleb's hands so he doesn't start dancing and do dumb things and get sacked. And that's what you're going to have to do against this Detroit Lions club. This defense is really good. The personnel might not be super impressive, but they're very well coached under Aaron Glenn. They don't give up big plays. They keep things in front of you, and they're going to try to make a rookie dink and dime down the field. A rookie who's probably going to be playing from behind because it's Detroit and they're just wrecking people. So in their last few here, they faced a 64% pass play rate. At home this season, 72% of yards have come by the pass against Detroit because they're either ahead or because they're pretty good at stopping the run too. DeAndre Swift probably ain't getting going against his former team here. No thanks. 46 rushing yards for him. The Lions also allow the second most completions, nearly 25 a game, but they're top 10 in yards per catch. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. They keep it underneath. They force you to take these short throws. That's why I don't want the yards for more. I just want him to keep catching these short balls and get started with a nice conservative play here to open the Thanksgiving slate.
Yeah, I think this is pretty conservative. Last week the yards were still aplenty as well. He's been catching a few more deep balls, but we do know what he's out there for more than anything, which is make sure that Caleb has basically a safety blanket, better than most wide receivers we would consider. So love DJ, been loving DJ, and I think it's a good look. Like you said, pretty safe pick here to kick things off. Another guy that's pretty safe, to be honest, is Jahmyr Gibbs, who is awesome at football. So we're taking him here. We got the 60-plus rushing yards for Jahmyr. Also going to throw the ATTD in there for a tutty at plus even money or better. Still love that for Jahmyr. We continue to watch him and Monty just get touchdowns in the same games forever now, which continues to be super impressive. But Monty, he did sit on Monday in that last game, should play. But we're still talking about Gibbs doing crazy awesome stuff with and without him. But in the last 3 versus some bad teams, he still had 110 yards per game from scrimmage in that one, in the last 3, I should say. And the Bears, a couple of things about them. They're very vulnerable in the run game. We've been targeting them even in games where they were favored to win, and the game script seemed like it might be kind of positive for them. We still took the run against them because they are not good. They are very bad getting that push on the defensive line, dead last in adjusted yards before hitting the ball carriers. So that's the weakness right there. The other weakness would be the fact that they get the 10th best pressure rate on the opposing quarterback and don't blitz very much. They still have a bottom 11 blitz percentage in terms of how often they're doing that. So they're getting pressure on teams pretty easily. And it does seem like one of the best ways to do that, some draw plays, neutralize things with a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs, who is consistently out there being considered for the pass and is always going to be monitored by the defense for that. I mean, the man has 10.3 yards per reception this season. He's number one in EPA and explosive play rate right now for Gibbs. So it's like every time he touches the ball, you're like, well, this could go anywhere from 40 yards to the house if he gets any kind of wiggle room. And that's what we're looking at here. And then you talk about the running, like, will they really even have to pass that much against a really good Bears pass defense? I don't know why you would risk it when you have the best, what I'm considering the best run game in the league. I mean, Lamar and company, it's a different beast because you got a rushing quarterback. But if we're talking about two running backs together with that offensive line, which is also second best at getting adjusted yards before its ball carrier gets touched, we're talking about basically the best versus the worst rushing defensive line as well. So really like him to be able to get in the end zone, whether it's through the air or through the ground, because Monty back obviously does mean he's a lot more likely to get those inside the 5 carries than Jahmyr is. Jahmyr doesn't need to be inside the 5 to score. So I think the touchdown's a great look, and the rushing yards as well to boot.
Yeah, anytime touchdown bets are usually dicey, but not when you're talking about a running back in the Detroit Lions offense at home against a soft running defense. They give up 10 rushing touchdowns to running backs all year. They have not been able to stop them near the goal line. Gibbs scored at both last year, right? He scored in 4 touchdowns in his last 3 home games. So I think tacking on the touchdown here is fine and a nice way to kind of lower his rushing prop, which is up there because everyone's aware that Monty's a little banged up, and that means more work for Gibbs. Look, Tommy DeVito, I'm gonna hope he plays here because obviously this will be void if he can't go. He popped up with a forearm injury, but right now we have under 177 passing yards. It got up to 179 some places. People are betting it up because it is an NFL offense after all. It's not a great Cowboys defense on surface, but I mean it's getting better. Deron Bland is back. The pass rush is on the rise for real with Parsons back, with Osa Izigizua back there. And I mean, the Giants are not going to have Jermaine Illuminor, I think, on top of whatever else they're trotting out there on the offensive line. That's just abysmal. They're going to try to lean on their 2 running backs as much as possible because, I mean, they're trotting out a quarterback who's below a fringe NFL talent, who many have said is the worst quarterback they've seen at the NFL level in the last 5 years. He was able to pile up enough yards against a Bucs team that just routinely gives up explosive plays. But I don't think he's going to have quite as much success. I mean, in Dallas last year, he had 86 yards at 3.2 yards per attempt for DeVito. The vibes are rising for Dallas for sure. So they're going to be kind of foaming to maybe get finally a home win here. And the Giants, who knows? Like this is more of a play about the dysfunction of your organization here, Josh, that your organization, I'm putting this on you, your boy.
This is Gettleman.
Yeah. Like cutting Daniel Jones, giving the team and then trotting this guy out there. Like clearly the team quit last week. They were like, wow, how are you going to do him like that? Have him play scout safety and then cut him. And then, not even play the second guy, Drew Lock. You're going to play DeVito. And so this is the shadiness right here, is that they might actually start DeVito, be like, oh, he can't go because of the forearm. And then if they bring in Drew Lock in relief, they don't have to pay the contract incentives. That's why they're not starting Drew Lock, because he gets paid more if he starts games. So there's a very real possibility that DeVito only plays a quarter, only plays a half, or gets hurt. Re-aggravates that injury against a good pass rush. So I'm going to hit this under 0.5 passing touchdowns as well. You can get it plus 145 because if he's not out there, he's certainly not going to be able to get a passing touchdown. He didn't have one last week. I don't see Dallas giving up an easy look to him in this divisional matchup. So I think unders all around for DeVito.
Yeah, what's interesting is that if DeVito can't go, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Tim Boyle for the reasons that you just said, who they signed as soon as they cut DJ, or before they even cut DJ, they signed Tim Boyle. It was like instantaneous, the same day, whatever. But that was because they knew they probably already knew they were starting Tommy Cutlets, and then they just, like you said, they didn't want him out there. As the Giants fan, like, we talk about this dysfunction, like, no, don't win any more games. Like, go get a quarterback, get that first overall pick. Like, I'm good with all that. So you can say it's dysfunction, but it feels pretty purposeful dysfunction when you look at the fact that they are going for a pick and all this stuff. It all works out. Like, the pick is the goal. Not paying your quarterbacks more than you need to is the secondary goal. So everything is being achieved despite what you might think of how they did Daniel Jones. It's not like Daniel Jones really offered the franchise much on the field anyway. Good guy, and I don't want to like besmirch him in any way. Just, this is how they're doing it for a reason. I like the Tommy Cutlets look though, because it's just so bad last week. Hopefully Malik Neighbors can do something for him, but it's going to be a lot more short passes. Anything past like 10, 12 yards was like, good God, man, this looks like high school football. But let me go to the same game here, talk about a player that is really good, even though his quarterback's not that good, CeeDee Lamb. And we're going to take him for the yards here. The receptions are at like 6.5. Don't hate it with the way that the ADOT looked last week. Not my least favorite play, but I think the yards are still good. He got 10 of 12 targets. I had to re-look at that line every time. I was like, he had 10 catches and he had 67 yards. That's absolutely bonkers. And the fact that he still got there is great. You kind of mentioned too, there was a 15-yarder called back that could have been there. For the love of God, stop letting the illegal formation play out. Just call it and end the play. But that's a different story. Now we're talking about 10 plus targets in 6 straight. Like, this is not only a safety blanket. I think there is something to the idea that CD needs to be fed the ball and be happy to continue on. He's got the contract. Like, he's going to be around. You've got to keep him happy. Something they have not been able to do with their star wide receivers maybe since Michael Irvin, but either way, if we're talking about the Giants, he did kill them. The last time out, 7 receptions on 8 targets, 98 yards in that one. That was week 4. If you look at last year for him as well, did really well at home versus Giants team, and that was amidst the surge that CeeDee Lamb came on with in the second half of the season for sure. But I think you can probably look. You want to say the Giants are quitting? Fine, but it's purposeful and I'm not mad about it. I just want to make that clear, but it is there and it's something to be taken advantage of, which is that, like, they're not going to trot out somebody else that can really, they're not bringing help in. They're not looking to sort of get guys in that defensive backfield now to help out. You're still going to be just picking on Banks in the secondary, who's still giving up about a 14-yard ADOT and 14 yards on the receptions that he's allowing. It's actually closer to 12 now, but it's all just bad. And so I'm not really confident that Deontay Banks is going to be able to help out there. He's also limited with a rib. That's not very helpful. So yeah, CD, if he's looking at like 10 to 12 targets and we're looking at 6 to 7 catches, yeah, I'm good with that. Even with that short yards per catch last week, I'm still good with that against the G-Man.
Yeah, Banks might have fractured a rib. Yeah, that could definitely be a problem. He's already allowing a 132 passer rating in his coverage. And yeah, he's not going to be a stopper for CD. Cooper Rush, I mean, that's kind of unfair to compare him to DeVito. He struggled in the opener against the Eagles in his debut, but I mean, this Eagles defense killing everybody. Since then, he's averaging 300 yards a game, and the Cowboys still can't run the ball. They still target CD whenever possible. Like, still don't have Brandon Cooks, I think, for this game. There's not really a second receiver. So yeah, I like the yards, the receptions, whatever, and kind of independent of game flow. Like, if the Giants are competitive, great. If not, like, I don't think the Cowboys are going to hesitate to just keep throwing the ball on them and rub their face. Because yeah, like we saw last year when Dak was out there and CD was out there, they just dominated the DeVito Giants. So
totally. Also, I have to ask, when you said many are calling Tommy DeVito potentially the worst quarterback that they've seen, were you the one who quoted that? Quoted yourself,
many, including myself. No, I'm listening to like Pro Football Focus people and people who break down the game score, and like he might literally have been graded as the worst last season.
Makes sense.
All right, but going to the Black Friday game, yeah. I wanted to fade Aiden O'Connell, but I don't. He's coming back and starting, but I don't think the Raiders are going to be able to run the ball whatsoever. So I'm actually going to take his top receiver, Jacoby Myers, for 5.5 receptions plus money, and he actually averages 6 on the season. And this is a much better situation than we've typically seen, because again, the Raiders, their run offense is getting worse and worse. Zamir White and Madison are both very much iffy for this one, as is Trey Tucker, another top passing option. So in their last 3, they're a 73% pass play team, which is the highest in the NFL by 5%. they have absolutely no hope of running on this Chiefs front, which kind of didn't give a full effort against the Panthers last week. It seemed like they just like let them hang around, and like they should have shut them down more than they did. But they're going to give a full effort here, at least up front, right? Because the Raiders beat them on Christmas, and they gave them a pretty good game, or in the first matchup too. I think the Chiefs will be keyed up for this, but their corners are pretty vulnerable. Like particularly Chamari Connor, who's now in the slot back role, and he's a converted safety. He's just too big and too slow. If you watched him, like he was an absolute liability in that Panthers game, just like losing his assignment all over the place. He's missed 6 tackles in the last 2 weeks. He gave up 7 catches to Khalil Shakir in that big game. And Myers is shifty, man. Like he's going to be a tough cover. If they just put him in the nickel, they just don't put him on Trent McDuffie's side. Like the Chiefs don't have a good corner other than this dude right now. They've been a bit overrated so far this season and starting to show some cracks. And Myers has brought it against division opponents. 10.3 targets per game his last 3 against Denver or KC, including 15 targets last week, running 95% of the routes. With AOC under there, I mean, 22 of 33 targets the last 4 starts. It's a little concerning, like that we don't know what's up with his thumb, but maybe he gets knocked out of the game and Desmond Ridder comes in there, and either way, like he's just gonna try to get the high percentage throw to Myers, who's probably going to be open more often than Brock Bowers, who's going to generate a lot of attention from a really good linebacker core, really good safeties that the Chiefs can trot out there. But I think their nickel corner is the weak point.
Yeah, I would expect the Chiefs to focus on just like stopping Brock Bowers. Like Jacoby, as good as he is and shifty as he is in space, like and he doesn't even need that much space. But Brock Bowers, like he's a better deep threat at tight end, right? Than is Jacoby. So I think you limit him, and that you've just created a much smaller field for the Raiders on offense if you're the Chiefs and Andy Reid. And I think that makes complete sense. And it's not like we're like, oh, this is a great matchup for a wide receiver against an opposing team, but it's just a game flow and the tendencies of the Raiders. Like if they're not gonna be able to get the run game going at all, which I do not think they will, then this is going to be a lot of throws that I don't know how far down the field they're going to be able to get them. So I think this is a good look here for short yardage guy and receptions. But let me go to another guy who, I mean, I guess it's short yardage, but we're talking about receiving yards for Devon Achane, going over 30.5. We both also kind of were just like, oh man, Jonnu Smith has been doing stuff here. And he's got a pretty beatable line at 44.5 yards again, but it is going up. And we're starting to get have to like buy a little bit of a premium on Jonnu, who had totals as low as like 26.5 receiving yards as recently as like 3 games ago. So this thing's only been going up. I don't necessarily want to get it, buy it on the upward trend as much as the dip, but 30.5 is a beatable number for Achane, something that he has done hyper consistently when he has Tua out there. And the reason that we're both looking at these guys, although Jonnu has a little obviously higher ADOT at playing tight end than does Achane, it's short yardage stuff in what should be some pretty nasty weather in Green Bay, which I thought when I saw this game in Green Bay for Miami, I was like, that's cruel to put Miami, this warm weather team in Green Bay on a Thursday night, the latest game too. It's going to be fun, but we've got some decent winds, probably around 12 miles an hour, and we're looking at some possible snow showers. Didn't really seem to affect Jameis Winston, but he's not playing in this game. So we've also got Tyreek still banged up. That's a big part of the uptick in usage for these other guys, including Achane, who still is actually seeing basically the same level of usage that he has whenever Tua is out there. So it doesn't seem like downfield is going to be it, is the long-winded way of saying that what I've been saying in a long-winded manner. If you look at the Green Bay D, really impressive, by the way, in both EPA per play overall for versus the run and versus the pass. And it honestly wasn't really even that good versus San Francisco. And San Francisco just really, they didn't have Brandon Allen. Like, what do you want me to say? They're dwindling with the receivers as well. But if you look at Achane against a Green Bay run D that, it's still good, but I think you're looking at like a good option for him as the receiver out of the backfield. It's a little bit better. You get him on the outside as well. And when they've gotten him on the outside, it does seem like that's a little bit more in the pass game than running those outside runs with him. A lot of those have been open down the middle. So yeah, I think in what should be like a pretty low scoring game, like getting the running back, the receptions is a really good look here for a guy who's going to be just as involved in the pass game as any of the receivers moving forward. Haven't really seen much of Jalen Waddle. There was a few appearances last week, but I just don't think the competition for where he's going to be running his routes is going to be high between he and his teammates essentially.
Yeah, the thing is, I mean, Waddle draws Keyshawn Nixon, who's having a really good year. Jair Alexander, if he's back, can be on Hill. So that's why we look at these guys on the interior for the short passing game for a Dolphins team that, like you said, is not shown much success in cold weather. And yeah, so they're not going to be throwing their fun bombs down the sideline to Hill. They're going to have to kind of continue to do what Mike McDaniel has done recently, which is get these two guys involved on the interior. You look at Achane in when it's been a higher scoring game, 54 receiving yards per game against the Cards and Bills with Tua back, 23 yards per game in the lower scoring affairs against, offenses that didn't bring it. But Jordan Love looked really good last week for the first time, I think, all season because he's been dealing with all those injuries. I mean, since he suffered the MCL sprain. So I think he's back. I think he'll be able to put up points and force the Dolphins to kind of pick up the pace and start passing more because their run game has definitely not been impressive.
Yeah, no, and I'm really leaning towards a negative game script for them as well as I continue just like a cold weather team in cold weather versus the Dolphins. So I think that does make sense. But that's all the time we have for you in our play of props here for NFL on Thursday. Also got the Friday game in there with the Jacoby Myers bet if you're interested in that for Black Friday as well. But continue to follow along. Make sure you do check out the NBA play of props and best bets we're bringing you each and every weekday as well. Until we see you next, happy betting.